Good afternoon, and thank you for being with us today. Bonjour et merci d'être avec nous aujourd'hui. I'm Corporal Julie Kirshane with the Manitoba RCMP. Je suis la Corporale Julie Kirshane avec la GRC du Manitoba. Before we begin, we recognize that today will be incredibly difficult for many people. If anyone needs to step out at any time, please feel free to do so. Cette journée sera incroyablement difficile pour de nombreuses personnes. Si quelqu'un a besoin de sortir, il ne faut pas hésiter à le faire. We have family members and first responders who will now place photos of those who so tragically lost their lives in the collision that occurred on June 15th. Nous avons des membres de la famille et des premiers intervenants qui vont maintenant placer des photos de ceux qui ont tragiquement perdu la vie dans la collision qui s'est produite le 15 juin. We have several people here who will be speaking today. Plusieurs des personnes ici présentes prendront la parole aujourd'hui. I would like to invite Superintendent Jeff Osmondson, Manitoba RCMP West District Commander, to the podium. J'aimerais inviter au podium le Surintendant Jeff Osmondson, chef du district de l'Ouest de la GRC.
Thank you all for being here today. Thank you especially to the families who, while enduring unimaginable loss, have come here today to tell the world about their loved ones. The word tragedy has been used a lot over the last week, but never has that word had as much meaning as it does when we look at the photographs that line this room. There's been a cloud over this community since the collision occurred. We lost 16 people who were mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, grandparents, whose decades of contributions helped make this community what it is. They're gone in an instant. And 9 more remain in the hospital with serious injuries, being tended to by dedicated health professionals. Hearts are broken, families are grieving. A community is feeling immeasurable loss. The communities of Carberry and Dauphin will be forever connected. First responders who were at the scene are here today, and they too are making their way through the enormity of what's occurred. The main thing that's helped me cope through everything that's happened is how everyone came together. The passing motorist at the scene, rural fire departments, EMS, police, mental health workers, community members, local churches, and of course the victims' families. Supports were put in place for the family right away. Offers for assistance and support for this tragedy showed the compassion of Manitobans and Canadians. I was there with the families on that first day as they awaited news on their loved one and having no idea what to expect. At the scene, people came from all over to assist. Officers at the Dauphin detachment and Parkland area, as well as major crimes investigators, came in after their shifts to answer the phones, even though they couldn't tell people what they wanted to hear, where their loved ones were. We knew it was important that there was a voice on the end of that phone when those families called us. The impact of this loss will be felt for a long time to come. Shortly, we're going to read the names of those who did not make it home from what was supposed to be a fun outing with friends. Some families have provided a small message about their loved one that will be read after their name. We recognize that this is going to be very traumatic for some people here today, and I reiterate Corporal Kershane's note that if you need to step out, please do not hesitate to do so. We have support workers and an RCMP chaplain here to provide any supports that you may require.
I will now read his statement in French. Merci de votre présence aujourd'hui. Je remercie tout particulièrement les familles qui, après avoir subi une perte immense, sont venus ici aujourd'hui pour informer le monde de leurs proches. Le mot tragédie est sur toutes les lèvres cette semaine. Mais ce mot n'a jamais eu autant de poids que lorsque nous regardons les photos qui se trouvent dans cette salle. Une ombre plane sur cette collectivité depuis la collision. Nous avons perdu 16 mères, pères, sœurs, frères, grands-parents qui ont œuvré pendant des dizaines d'années à bâtir la collectivité que nous connaissons aujourd'hui. Ils ont disparu en un instant. 9 autres personnes sont toujours hospitalisées pour des blessures graves et sont soignées par des professionnels de la santé dévoués. Des cœurs sont brisés, des familles sont en deuil, une communauté vit une grande perte. Les communautés de Carberry et de Dauphin seront à jamais liées. Les premiers intervenants qui se trouvaient sur les lieux sont ici aujourd'hui. Et ils tentent eux aussi de surmonter la gravité de ce que s'est produit. Ce qui m'aide le plus pour ma part, c'est de voir à quelle vitesse tout le monde se serrait l'écoute. Les automobilistes qui passaient sur les lieux de l'accident, les pompiers des zones rurales, les services médicaux d'urgence, la police, les professionnels de la santé mentale, les membres de la communauté, les églises locales et bien sûr les familles des victimes. Des mesures de soutien ont été mises en place immédiatement pour la famille. Les offres d'aide et de soutien pour cette tragédie ont montré la compassion des Manitobaines et des Canadiennes. J'étais aux côtés des familles le premier jour, alors qu'elles attendaient des nouvelles de leurs proches et ne savaient pas du tout à quoi s'attendre. Sur les lieux, des gens sont venus de partout pour prêter main forte. Des agents du détachement de Dauphin et des services des crimes majeurs sont rentrés au travail après leur corps pour répondre au téléphone, même s'ils ne pouvaient pas dire aux personnes qui appelaient ce qu'elles voulaient entendre, où leur être cher se trouvait. Nous savions qu'il était important qu'il y ait une voix au bout du fil lorsque ces familles nous appelaient. Cette perte aurait des effets pendant longtemps. Sous peu, nous allons lire les noms de ceux qui ne sont pas rentrés chez eux après ce qui était censé être une belle sortie entre amis. Nous sommes conscients que cela va être très difficile pour certaines personnes présentes aujourd'hui. S'il vous plaît, si vous avez besoin de sortir, n'hésitez pas. Des travailleurs de soutien et un aumônier de la GRC sont là pour vous apporter tout le soutien dont vous avez besoin.
I'll read the names of the deceased now. Louis Bretisher, 81. Proud and beloved husband, father, père, he will be forever missed and always remembered by all who knew and loved him. Our hearts lay also with those families that are grieving alongside ours. We request that our family's privacy be respected by the media during this difficult time.
Louis Bretisher, 81. Fier mari, père et pépère que nous aimons tant. Il nous manquera à jamais et tous ceux qui l'ont connu et aimé se souviendront de lui. Les autres familles en deuil sont dans nos cœurs. Nous demandons aux médias de bien vouloir respecter la vie privée de notre famille dans ce moment difficile.
Margaret Furcalo, 82, forever in our hearts.
Margaret Furcalo, 82, toujours dans nos cœurs.
Vangie Gilchrist, 83, of Gilbert Plains.
Vangie Gilchrist, 83, de Gilbert Plains.
Anne Hill, 81. Rest in peace, Mom, Grandma, great-grandma, and sister.
Anne Hill, 81. Et repose en paix, maman, grand-maman, arrière-grand-maman, ma sœur.
Helen Coufflet, 88. We are heartbroken and numb by this tragedy and the loss of our vibrant mother, Baba and Great Baba. She was and always will be the cornerstone of our family, the one we always went to for advice and wisdom, and we will miss her terribly. Thank you for all the first responders for their incredible work, and the city of Dauphin and area for their caring.
Helen Coufflet, 88. Cette tragédie et la perte de notre vibrante mère, Baba et grand-Baba, nous brise le cœur et nous laisse sans voix. Elle était et sera toujours la pierre angulaire de notre famille, celle à qui nous demandons toujours conseil et sagesse, et elle nous manquera terriblement. Merci à tous les premiers intervenants pour leur travail incroyable et à la ville de Dauphin pour sa compassion.
Arlene Lindquist, 68, loving mother, grandmother, and friend.
Arlene Lindquist, 78, mère, grand-mère, amie, amante.
Diane Midwood, 70.
Diane Medwood, 70.
Nettie Nakonechny, 87, a longtime resident of Dauphin, former school teacher, and Baba, to not only her own grandchildren and great-grandchildren, but to the many others who knew her. She was very proud of her Ukrainian heritage. She will be missed by all of us who loved her.
Nettie Nekonashny, 87, résidente de longue date de Dauphin, ancienne enseignante et Baba, non seulement pour ses petits-enfants et arrière-petits-enfants, mais aussi pour beaucoup d'autres qui l'ont connue. Elle était très fière de sa culture ukrainienne. Elle manquera à tous ceux qui l'ont aimée.
Shirley Novolkowski, 76, loving mother, grandmother, and sister.
Shirley Novikowski, 76, mère, grand-mère, sœur amante.
Frank Pergillo, 82.
Frank Pergillo, 82.
Rose Pergillo, 80.
Rose Pergillo, 80.
Jean Rosenkrantz, 82.
Jean Rosenkrantz, 82.
Donna Shodra, 79. She will be deeply missed by her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren.
Donna Chaudra, 79, qui va manquer profondément à ses enfants, petits-enfants et arrière-petits-enfants.
Lillian Stobie, 73, loving mother, nana, and friend.
Lillian Stobie, 73, mère, nana, amie, amante.
Patsy Zamerkut, 88.
Patsy Zamerkut, 88.
Claudia Zerba, 87. Your life was a blessing. Your memory is a treasure. You were loved beyond words and missed beyond measure. She was our mom, Nana, great-Nana, great-great-Nana. Love you forever. Our hearts were shattered into pieces that day, June 15th, 2023.
Claudia Zerba, 87. Ta mémoire est un trésor, comme ta vie a été une grâce. Combien nous t'aimons, cela ne se dit pas. Combien tu nous manques, cela ne se mesure pas. Notre nana, grand-maman, nous t'aimons pour toujours. Notre cœur s'est brisé en 1000 morceaux ce jour-là, le 15 juin 2023.
I would now like to ask everyone to share a moment of silence in honor of those we've lost.
Je voudrais maintenant demander à tous de partager un moment de silence en l'honneur de ceux
Please
que
stand if you're able.
nous avons perdus.
We will remember you. Thank you. You may be seated when you're ready.
I would like to invite the Mayor of Dauphin, David Bosiak, to the podium. J'invite le maire de Dauphin, David Bosiak, à prendre la parole.
Families, friends, and guests, it's been a tremendously difficult week for our city, and on behalf of our council and staff, I wish to express our heartfelt condolences to the families of the deceased. We can't imagine the sorrow and sadness you are feeling. I would also like to send our best wishes to those still in hospital and their families as we hope and yearn for their speedy recoveries. 1 week ago, news of the crash reverberated through our community. As the scope of the incident became clearer over the next days, a genuine sense of somberness and sadness descended upon Dauphin and the surrounding area. It was palpable. It showed how much we cared, how much we were concerned for the survivors, and how we grieved for those that were lost. Throughout this ordeal, City Council and administration supported our community with overwhelming care and effort. We focused on trying to do the right thing at the right time, always trying to be considerate, compassionate, and respectful. I would like to commend the first responders who cared for our citizens. You have a tremendously difficult job, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I would also like to thank council and staff, our fire chief and the RCMP, Prairie Mountain Health, and the Dauphin and District Ministerial Association. I would also like to commend and thank the therapy dogs and their handlers for coming to our community and offering their very important care and comfort during an extremely difficult time. As we continue to grieve, I also want to applaud the oftentimes silent but critical support provided by the citizens of Dauphin. I've heard countless stories of how friends and neighbors have reached out to comfort and help each other, and it's certainly reassuring to know that we can pull together and support each other in times of crisis. And we aren't alone. There has been an overwhelming outpouring of support coming in from across Canada and beyond. These messages have been truly helpful, and I would like to take this opportunity to express our collective gratitude for all of this support. The next few days and weeks and months will be difficult. We have lost a tremendous amount of our families, our friends, and our neighbors. However, I know that we will never forget them, and as we heal, I trust we will continue to support each other and remember all the good these wonderful people brought to us. I know we are hurting, but we are resilient. We are strong, Dauphin strong. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Merci. I'd like to invite Ernie Sersky, the Reeve of the RM of Dauphin, to the podium. J'invite le préfet de la municipalité de Dauphin, Ernie Sersky, à prendre la parole.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, words cannot express the loss you have experienced over the last few days, or the trauma that continues as you visit the loved ones in the hospital. We cannot feel your pain. We can only offer our sympathies. We cannot suffer your loss, but we can share your grief. I would like to thank the first responders, the police, fire departments, ambulance, and STARS personnel who went beyond the call of duty to do their jobs on that very difficult day. Ja хочу передати найщиріші співчуття на цей день скорбота. I would like to express our sincere condolences on this very difficult day. On behalf of not only the citizens of the rural municipality of Dauphin, but also of the residents of the surrounding community of the entire parkland, we offer our condolences. Вечная память, memory eternal.
Thank you, sir. Merci. This concludes today's press conference. Thank you all for coming here today. Merci d'être venu aujourd'hui. Thank you.
Mic check, 1, 2. Question mic, 1, 2. Podium mic, 1, 2. Podium mic, 1, 2. 1, 1, 1. Hey, hey, hey. Level check, level check. It'll be still a few minutes before this starts. Level check, checking for sound.
Hey, John, do you have a mic?
Hold on.
It's coming.
Yeah, I got bumped. The
Mic
official
check,
one here.
1, 2, 3. You can hear that okay, John, from here? 1, 2, 3. If I'm asking you a question, you got me okay?
Yeah, I can hear that, yeah. Level check, 1, 2. Here we are in Dauphin. 1, 2. Checking for levels, checking for sound. Level check, 1, 2. It's about a good height.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
good.
anyone can tighten it as they want. Good for you. Okay. We'll do a further sound check just before we start. Mic check.
Well, there's these things that I don't think. There's just one right in his head, that's all.
Can you see DeGiro win A? DeGiro win A? Because there's a media availability here with the superintendent. Pardon me, my friend.
No worries.
Thank you. Hang on. DeGiro win A? Yeah, where? DeGiro win A? Yeah, hang on. Can you, see
Yeah, you guys agree if you're going to be cut away. Ah, you're twins. Maybe a bit of spill of these, yeah. Okay, good.
They're not going to say much in
Yeah,
this.
okay, I'll be standing about like this. Yeah. I will. Okay, guys, we're gonna. Yeah, let's move it up. Check your focus level.
Sure.
I'll get that white balance too, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no worries. That should work out perfectly for timing.
Okay, new focus. 1, 2.
4-3, I still get 4-3, eh? Thanks.
4.7 for me.
Yeah, and you'll have to pick up the first rate you're in, although we're in the same room.
Calculate at 4-3.
Oh yeah.
You can ask a question for me. Well, we're gonna leave here. You can ask a question.
John? Yeah. Liberty's still on next door? I turned them off. Okay.
I don't know. Fancy.
The box is still up.
I hit it right back
shut
on.
off the.
Completely
That can come down, yeah.
and totally by accident.
Get that crack in your audio? Hear that on my knee? Crack? Oh. Yeah. It's good sound I put out, eh?
can adapt it, whatever you want. There's nothing going on yet, so you might as well.
Please just give me the heads up when you're all set to go.
No DeGiro fee. Just turning it on now. People have it. Go to that montage.
Yeah, because I want you to see.
Okay, is everybody ready? We're going to start with Inspector Reeve Horton. Okay. Nope, this is a Q. Yeah. Yep, just up there.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Inspector Horton, you were the one that was making some next of kin notifications. Just tell us how that went with the motion that was with them.
Yes, there was actually due to the scope of this, there was, we broke up into two different teams to do some of the next of kin notifications. And I mean, obviously it was a terrible tragedy and there's a lot of emotion, wide ranging with the families involved. But I can say even in this tragedy, I'm overly impressed with the community and the families involved. They're dealing with the loss of their loved ones and they're asking how our first responders are doing. They're worried about our care and what's happening with our members and the first responders. So it's just, honestly, it's an absolutely amazing community, and the support we've had, the reaching we've had to help us through this has been fantastic.
It was obviously a few days before some of those notifications were able to be made. What is that like to not be able to tell those families right away and to have them wait for those answers?
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, we had a support center set up the day and evening that this happened, and many family members were there waiting for that call. So we're in there with a lot of the family, and it's just terrible not knowing, and we were sharing whatever we could, but due to the scope of the investigation and the tragedy, it was just we didn't have that information available. So the families were obviously upset and trying to process and wondering, but again, just amazing to deal with. Very, very strong, very supportive. But yeah, there's obviously some frustration that goes along with that.
And
Do you know?
responders have probably never seen a site like this, a scene like this, and probably won't in their careers. What is that like for you guys, and how's everyone feeling?
You know, we've reached out to our, on our end with the RCMP, we've reached out to our first responders, ones that were at the scene, and everyone processes differently. Some it's affecting immediately, others it may take a few days, weeks, or months. Quick example is we had one of our members that, you know, they rise to the occasion, they do what they have to do. And it was after the fact, it was something so simple as they saw a candy that one of their grandparents used to have those same candies in their house, and it brought back a flood of emotion. So everyone's processing at different speeds and in different ways.
Do you have an idea of when you might have a next update on the investigation?
I'm not involved in the investigation. The investigation is being run through our major crime unit, and yeah, I have nothing to do with that, sorry.
As my colleague mentioned, no officer wants this moment in their career. For you, what was that experience going through, having to actually emotionally deal with that?
You know, for myself, I wasn't at the scene. I was just here with some of the families. Some weren't there because they already had news. You know, it's very upsetting because you always put yourself in their shoes, and you hear some family members share stories.
Some are very emotional, and you relate as if you were impacted. And again, it's extremely hard to put yourself in their shoes because they're not just grieving the loss of one person. A lot of these, it was a road trip for a lot of these people where they knew each other. One family in particular had, they shared that how much their loved one was looking forward to this because they got together with their ladies. These are neighbors. They all know each other. So family members are grieving not just with their loved ones, but of a bunch of people in the community that they know. So it's tremendously difficult. But again, our the community has been amazing. As you heard some of the speeches in there where, again, everybody rose, our mayor, council, community, it's just, can't say enough. It's, that brings some positivity in this tragedy is how close a community is and how much they support each other.
Inspector, now that you've been able to do those notifications and we've been able to identify people, were the majority from, or all from Dauphin, or were other communities here being impacted?
There's other communities impacted. The majority were from the Dauphin end area, but there's definitely other communities that are impacted.
I'm just curious to know, what do you say to somebody in that moment, somebody who has just lost their loved one? What words do you have for them in those moments of, there's so much grief, immeasurable grief? What do you say?
Well, a lot of times you can't say much. There's nothing you can do to take away that pain. Is you're sorry for their loss and you try to put yourselves in their situation. But again, everyone in this room has probably lost a loved one, but this was different. There's just so many people. It's such an impact on the community that, words can't express. You just have to be there for them if they want to talk. And there's no words you can really say that's going to fix it. It's just, you're sorry and you're there if you need them.
Inspector, it's a time to listen though too, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You've done a lot of listening over the last week, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Could I ask the Premier a question? Thanks. Oh, sorry.
It's Lee Fortin, Fortin. Inspector. Yeah, it's the Manitoba West District, which our office is in Dauphin. Anything else? Thank you.
Premier. Hi. I know it's only been 2 or 3 days since you talked about it, but is there any update on the safety review and the investigation of the intersection?
No, that continues and is ongoing, and of course it will continue with the RCMP in terms of the investigation on that side as well.
Premier, you've now had a chance to be in the community. You said you're taking a bit of time to allow families to grieve. What is it like for you being here, seeing these families, seeing the photos?
My heart goes out to all of them. This is an incredibly difficult time for them, and we're just here to offer our support to them in any way that we can. And I did have an opportunity to meet with some of the families earlier, and yes, give them those warm hugs and offer them any kind of support that they need. We're here for them. And also supports for our first responders too. This has had a devastating impact, I think, on some of their lives as well, and we want to make sure that we're there and have those supports for them as well. And I just want to thank, all of them, the RCMP, all of those first responders who were there on the scene. It was obviously a tragic situation, and our hearts go out to them as well.
Premier, what has struck you in all this? You're part of the role of a premier, is griever in chief, if you will. Who has struck you? What has struck you over the last several days?
Well, I think that what's incredible is the way that this community, Dauphin and the surrounding communities, have come together. But not just here, it's right across our province, right across our country. And the overwhelming support that we have received from people everywhere has been incredible. I think it's who we are as Manitobans, but it's also who we are as Canadians. When tragic situations like this happen, we come together.
Premier, thank you for taking our questions today. Premier Stefanson, you know, in your time as Premier, in your time in government, have you ever experienced anything like this? And what do you think this will mean for kind of Manitoba moving forward? How does the province kind of move forward from this? How does the province heal from this? What would your message be to those who are struggling?
Yeah, no, good question. We are grieving as a province along with those families and offering supports to those families. And, you know, this doesn't end today. This continues, and we will continue to make sure that we offer those supports to the families. And we just want to send the message to them, whatever they need from us, we're here for them.
Premier, have you had a chance to speak to any of the families or survivors?
Yes, there are some who are here today, and I was able to again offer, you know, a hug to them as well, and just let them know that they and their loved ones are in our prayers right now. We know that you know, they will continue to be in our prayers.
I just have a question for the mayor.
Okay.
Mayor, obviously there has been a lot of rallying around these families, a lot of support for them, and because people are they care about what is this tragedy that has happened here, are there any plans for, you know, a public funeral? How do you plan to honor these victims?
I don't know exactly, but I've been reassured and comforted by the fact that the Ministerial Association, when we met with them yesterday, had had tremendous amount of communication with many families over the last couple of days since the accident. And so we were a little bit surprised when we established the Community Support Center and didn't have a lot of people coming. And then as we sort of debriefed and discussed, we rationalized that maybe that's a cultural age thing in our community, that people were seeking that support privately. And so we've been, as I indicated in my remarks earlier, that we've tried to show as much compassion and respect for that process. So we will actually continue to listen and see, but my thinking is that most people will be preferring a more private family type of funeral.
Superintendent, I'm just wondering, back to my colleague's question, still in the infancy of the investigation, I know that you've told us it's going to be weeks, if not months. Any idea when we might be expecting any updates, if you've spoken to the driver yet? Kind of the questions that we were still waiting for answers for last week.
As I previously said in our previous news conferences, it's very important for the public and the family to get, you know, ongoing timely information. So as the information on the investigation, as it trickles in, I am, you know, more open to talk about it, and there is a little update. There was a number of questions last week about the status of the driver's licensing of both the semi-driver and the bus driver. What I can tell you is both of those drivers had the proper licenses at the time. There was nothing illegal that they were doing in regards to the licensing process. I can also say that the mechanical analysis of both vehicles is ongoing. We have our experts on that, and they're sifting through some very complicated analytical techniques on what we do to make sure that both vehicles are assessed on their mechanical soundness and make sure that there was nothing wrong safety-wise. And we continue to work with the survivors' families and the victims who are still in hospital. And like I said before, we're not rushing to talk to them. But we're hoping for their recovery, and at the right time we'll get their witness accounts of what they experienced and saw that day, which will be very difficult.
Superintendent, when you spoke to us last, you had mentioned it's your job to either rule criminality in or rule criminality out. At what point is an accident a criminal act? What's the bar there? What do you have to see?
Well, under the Criminal Code of Canada, there's certain elements of that meet an offense, and our job as investigators is to gather evidence to meet those certain criminal elements per the Criminal Code of Canada. You know, in consultation with Manitoba prosecutions, you know, we'll determine at a point whether we've gathered enough evidence that we can come out publicly and say that we've ruled criminality in or criminality out. There's a lot of steps to that process, as I'm sure everyone can understand. This is something that we're not going to rush, because when we come out and make that announcement, that's very impactful, and as I've been very steadfast on, we will get that right, and we won't rush that.
I know when we spoke last week too, you were very careful to not lay blame or any of that, especially until this investigation is complete. How much the investigation looks into prior history of both drivers as well, and if there were any prior complaints about either? I know you said they both had proper licensing, but what do we look to when it comes to history when we're looking at the scope of an investigation like this?
Yeah, there's not really much we look into then. We actually look acutely at what happened at that time, you know, what the status of the drivers are, what their actual acts were at that time. Not until if something it comes down to, you know, a criminal charge and sentencing, that we would take history into account.
Just say it's going to be.
Pardon me, sorry?
Say it's going to be.
Rob Lasson, Lasson, superintendent. Yeah.
You said that the mechanical analysis is still ongoing. Is there anything preliminary that would show there was any issues with the bus or the semi, I guess?
Not right now that I've heard from the investigators. There's nothing that's glaring right now.
What remains to be done in the investigation? The next steps?
You know, the mechanical analysis is going to that's going to be a big part of it. Talking to the rest of the victims when the time is right. We have production orders in for a number of things that we're looking at in regards to the vehicles and the persons and things like that. So like I said in my previous conversations or media releases, that these authorizations some takes time, and that's when the facts will be revealed.
Have you been able to have any further conversations with those survivors? I know you've started them
Right.
and that it's delicate.
No, they're still in hospital and being treated.
You've been able to determine the make and the model of the bus?
Yes, I do. It was a 2005 model 5500 Chevy passenger van.
Do you expect to release the information about what your investigation found out, whether or not there's criminal charges?
Absolutely, when the time is right. Absolutely.
How many witnesses have you spoken with?
I don't have the exact number, but I know the investigators have talked to a few of the people that are recovering from hospital that were able to speak, and a few passerby motorists. Anything else? Good.
I was just going to ask about the impact of today and releasing the names, what it'll have on people now that confirmation is there about who it was.
Well, I think what we're doing as a community is, now that we understand who's there, we can grieve with them on a personal note. I think that's the thing that's coming out of here today. On a personal note, at least 4 of them went to my church, and I knew them personally, and we worked with them. They were great people, and I know a couple in the hospital are still there, and I sang with them in the church choir. So we grieve with them, and the community will be able to do that now as well.
Obviously you're a leader when it's coming through this. People look to you, but you're also grieving the loss of people that you knew personally, and how this has been for you.
Oh, it's been a difficult time, not just for myself, but for my council, for my citizens, for everybody in the Parkland area. Everybody knew somebody if they didn't know them personally. So it's been a grieving process that you can never prepare for. You can prepare for a hurricane because you can look at a weather forecast. You can sandbag your house if a flood's coming. You can't prepare for this.
Is it hard for you to stand up and lead and help others while you're also going through some very similar feelings?
Well, I'm fortunate that I had my Ukrainian background, my Ukrainian culture revolves around family, and family always stands up for each other. And that's what we are today. We're one big family.
How did it feel to see the faces go up? I know one of my more fit. The one woman in her glasses, the couple together, it was really emotional. For you, these are people that are friends, neighbors, acquaintances. How did it feel seeing the photos go up one by one?
Well, I had to remember not to cry. That's the first thing, especially when they were putting up the photos, because I know that I know the job I had to do to represent my community. It was a tough job. Ernie Sirski, S-I-R-S-K-I. Reeve of the Rural Municipality of Dauphin.